So this is going to be the second part of the weightlifting routine here. We're going to be performing 4 sets, very high repetitions, anywhere between 16 to 20 reps. So I have right here all the weights that I'm going to be using. I went ahead and picked them out ahead of time. I recommend that you do the same exact thing. What we're going to be doing for the workout is we're going to be starting with plate press. So where you have the plate, press it up. Then we're going to be doing wide one-arm dumbbell row, where you're like on the bench going like that, working the back. And then we'll finish off with kickbacks, working kind of like that rear delt. So you got the dumbbell, boom, and it's going back like that. So the way I'm going to be showing the workouts is I'm going to be first saying what the exercise is, then I'll quickly demonstrate the exercise, and then I'll break down the key points that you need to keep in mind while you're performing it. That way you're able to target the muscle the right way and also significantly decrease your risk of injuring yourself by doing the exercise the wrong way. So we don't want to do it the wrong way, we want to do it the right way, and we also really want to make sure we're focusing on contracting and squeezing that muscle as we are performing the lift. Ideally, you will want to feel that burn in that muscle around the last 2 or 3 repetitions. That means you are doing a good job of focusing on squeezing and contracting the muscle while you're moving it. And make sure to keep in mind, go low, go slow, and really feel the contraction. You don't want to do it fast. The slower you go, the better. And yeah, now let's get into it. So the first exercise we're going to be performing is the plate press. So I have here 10-pound plate, and I will show you what the movement is really quickly. So when you're performing this, ideally, you want to be holding the weight by having your hands really pressing together. The pressure of you pushing your hands against the plate is what will help kind of activate the pecs. So you're squeezing the plate, bringing the elbows in, and pushing forward. Now, keep in mind the angle of the plate. It's not, the plate you do not want to go over your head like this. Rather, you want it to go straight up. So notice the angle that I have here. The plate is just going straight upwards. So pressing the plate together with the palms, and you can have your fingers interlocked in the little crevices there to help with the grip if your palms get sweaty. I know mine do. But you're going to be pressing the plate together, and as you push up, the elbows, see how the elbows are kind of flaring inwards? You're going to be pushing up, flaring in, and then expand down, flare up, push up, come down. Just like that. Now, the bench, you want it to be at not super steep of an incline, but you don't want it too flat. The more incline it is, the more of the upper chest it's going to be hitting. But if you go too far up, then it ends up just being more of like a shoulder workout than a chest workout. So play with the angle a little bit. I prefer, so imagine this is kind of like where your butt would go. This is too high up. It's almost 90 degrees. This is too low. It's practically flat. You want just enough of an angle like this. It will really help to get the upper chest, but this exercise is really good for kind of hitting the center chest, kind of develop that out a little bit. So I'm going to be doing at least 20 repetitions of this. If you go up to 30, go to 30, but around 20 reps, you're going to be kind of feeling the burn. Now, second exercise, you're going to go right from the plate press and into the wide grip row. So for this, you do want to have the bench flat. Have the dumbbell on the bench like so. Now, when you're performing this movement, the arm that is doing the movement, the leg should be out of the same arm. So if I'm going to be starting with my right hand, my right leg is going to be out. The opposite hand that's not going to be doing the movement, just nice, bam, flat on the bench like so. Then in terms of how you're going to have the upper body positioned, I like to have the legs a little bit staggered, and you want your chest to be puffed out. You're thinking like Superman. Boom, chest puffed out, the back nice and contracted. You're kind of pulling the pulling those shoulder blades back. Imagine you're almost trying to pinch a pencil right between your shoulder blades there. And while you're in this boom, powerful Superman position, you're just leaning forward. So you hold in this powerful Superman position, hand down, grabbing the dumbbell, pulling that elbow up. Now it's a little hard to see at this angle, but when I'm performing the movement, notice the angle here. My elbow is not low. I'm not doing this. The elbow is up fairly high. Now, it doesn't need to be up like here. Nope. Doesn't even need to be 90 degrees, just slightly less, but you want it to be like within this range, like so. So you boom, boom, boom. Having it at that angle will really help to kind of like broaden out your chest and your back. Gets a good upper back definition going on right there. So let me show you a little bit of a few repetitions of this. So boom, Superman pose. Slight arch in the back. No curve like this. When you're doing the Superman pose, you want to arch that back, push the butt out, grab the dumbbell, and boom. Nice and slow. You want to do about 16 repetitions of this. And then you switch over to the other side. Superman pose, chest up, arch back, pulling the elbow up. Now, I mentioned elbow because when you are visualizing pulling your elbow upwards, you're focusing less on the bicep by doing that. So by thinking of like elbow up, it's not like you're not curling. Like, see how I'm moving the weight, but I'm using all bicep there. But if I'm also doing this, it's a lot of bicep. Now, boom, arm down, elbow up, and your bicep will be less likely to take over the movement. Because again, we want to focus on back. We want to focus on hitting these upper traps right here as you're pulling, squeezing, contracting, holding that Superman pose. It'll really help to broaden the back, give a nice, good V-shaped definition up there. Now, after you've done the plate press, after you've done the wide dumbbell row, then we are going to go into working the rear delt. I call them pushbacks because you're kind of like just pushing the arm back. So for this, the bench is going to be at a slightly lower angle than when we were doing the plate press. So man, remember the plate press was about this angle. For the rear delt, it's going to be a bit lower. And the reason why is because we want the arm to have as much range of motion as possible. So let me set the bench up real quick and I'll show you what I mean by that. So right now the bench is set up how it was at the same exact angle when we were doing the plate press. And if I were to try to do the shoulders at this angle, this is the angle you don't want it to be at. There's not enough range of motion. There's very, very little movement happening to hit the rear delt. So we want it low, but we don't want it flat. So now you can see with my arm, when I go to move it back, there's a lot more motion that is needed. This is basically the movement that you're going to be doing. But again, you want to remember you got to do that Superman pose even when on here. So chest strong, back flex, pulling those shoulder blades back, and just boom. Now it doesn't seem like a lot of movement, and that's okay, because the focus is you want to really be squeezing and feeling it up there in the rear delts. It's the area that a lot of people tend to neglect just because you don't see it. You don't see it a lot in the mirror, but when this is nice and well developed, it really helps shape the shoulder up really, really well. So you'll do about 16 repetitions of that and then go over to the other side. So for this one, It's a little bit of a tricky movement, so really make sure you're feeling it back there. If not, you might have to experiment a little bit with how your elbow is rotated, even doing things like how I was saying with the row of imagining pulling the elbow up. You might need to imagine putting all the weight in your index finger as it comes back, or in your pinky or something. You know, like experiment with a little bit. Maybe like try to rotate the wrist. I find having the weight where my wrist is forward tends to work a little bit better. But it's something to experiment with. Make your arm as straight as possible as well. The more bent it is, the less you're going to feel it. So nice and straight. Just pull that weight back. It's an exercise that does not require a lot of weight. So if the weight that you pick feels a little too heavy, if you're struggling with it too much, go lighter. It's better to go lighter and go slower and really flex than it is to do a heavy weight and move it really fast and not really feel it. So yeah, that's pretty much the 3 exercises right there. You got the plate press, you got the bent over wide row, and then rear delt kickback.